Good morning. Welcome to Introduction to Security. Welcome to tax day. If you haven't filed your return, you need to run out and take care of that. We'll wait on you. Or maybe not. If considering Ian and Trenton's previous presentations, it might look like that I stole Ian's design theme and Trenton's topic. I didn't. They stole mine. But I forgive them. No harm done. According to Security Plus Guide to Network Security Fundamentals 6th edition, a reporter, and that is what this presentation is largely, almost entirely based on. But according to that, a reporter drove a Jeep Cherokee outside St. Louis, while two security researchers 10 miles away remotely connected to it and took control of it. Would anybody like to see that demonstration? I decided to look for it, and lo and behold, it took about 10 seconds on YouTube. So let me see if I can get it up. It's about, well, this is a short version, so it's not the one I thought, so.
Many thousands of Jeeps around the world, they can be remotely hacked over the internet through a cellular connection to its entertainment system.
Andy Greenberg, senior writer at Wired, allowed two hackers to remotely control a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee that they say hadn't been altered in any way while driving on a highway in St. Louis.
So first we're going to turn the fan on.
Yeah, let's turn the fan on so you even notices. Alright, something was turned on, all the fans and AC and stuff. I didn't do that. Air conditioning is plastic, music is plastic, and I can't see anything because of the windshield microfluids.
Hackers Charlie and Chris say they worked for the last year to develop the software to take over the digital systems in the vehicle.
So we're killing the engine right now.
I turned on my hazard lights, but I was still stuck in the right lane with no shoulder to escape onto.
Guys, I'm stuck on the highway.
He's panicking.
They say this experiment was done to show how some late model Chrysler vehicles can be exposed to hacks through an internet-connected computer in the dashboard.
We wanted to show that this attack has serious consequences for this vehicle.
We're only two guys with one car, right? So, we can't look at every car, and we want to release this information because more people like us need to be focused on this problem.
Charlie and Chris alerted Chrysler, who was offering a security update at no cost to customers. They released a statement writing, similar to a smartphone or tablet, vehicle software can require updates for improved security protection to reduce the potential risk of unauthorized and unlawful access to vehicle systems. Be sure to watch Inside Edition.
Okay. What you think about that? Pretty serious security breach there. I'm going to quote from the Security Plus Guide to Network Security Fundamentals 6th edition, Mark Campy. I'll be saying that quite a few times now. Quote, this demonstration immediately caused the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to recall 1.4 million vehicles to patch this vulnerability. This was the first time a car was recalled because of a security vulnerability, unquote. Vulnerability and patch are keywords. If you got the software, you know about patch and vulnerabilities. And this is just one example. There's plenty more in that in the book. And you probably know some. Anybody know any security breaches that are famous?
Google Plus not too long ago.
Google Plus, Yahoo had one. Facebook recently. Netflix. Almost every, and these are United Airlines, a flight attendant security researcher got into the in-flight entertainment system and could have took it over some of the, he boasted that he could have took it over some of the controls of that flight. And he boasted about it on Twitter, and United Airlines reported that to the FBI, and he's banned from United Airlines. Some of this stuff's pretty, it's very serious. In another video that I watched about where they took over the Jeep Cherokee, those two the two security guys, they said it wasn't dangerous. And I thought, it seems pretty dangerous to me to take over a vehicle on the interstate like that. So there was the Yahoo compromise, and one that really kills me as the CIA director, John Brennan. His email was hacked by a teenager. And that would be pretty embarrassing. Any more? Anybody think of any more? But there are a lot of them. And let's move on to the next slide. Like I said, it is taxable. Well, I hope so. Somebody's been putting things in there. Why should you, as a technician, be very excited about information technology and security? Anybody have a comment or answer about that?
Because you're gonna have to deal with it at some point.
You're going to have to deal with it at some point. Anybody else? It's an exciting field. We're in exciting times, and there are a lot of opportunities. Can you think of anything else? I didn't hear that.
Sometimes it's fun just putting up all the fences and getting everything ready and seeing it work.
Yeah, it's very important, like the events we just talked about. Business need their networks to be secure, don't they? And evidently, from those examples, we can see that there's a great need for security people. Basically, I broke this presentation up into 3 categories. Information security personnel, we'll look at that a little bit. Defining information security and threats to security. I missed a part. If you want to look at your handout for the occupational handbook, this is information security analyst, and I wanted you to note the median pay down there: $95,000 per year, $45 an hour. For this particular field, it says you need a bachelor's degree to enter that, but we'll look at where you guys are going to enter more than likely. But you can work your way up to that easy. You guys are big enough to do that. You've got a lifelong career, maybe not for me, but this is kind of my last go around. Adventure, I've been on some adventure, my kids say, Papa's on another adventure. So, but I look forward to working in the field. I hopefully get up to second level anyway. But $95,000 a year is pretty motivating, isn't it?
I can deal with that.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right? The job outlook is very good. It's projected to grow 28% from 2016 to 2026, much faster than the average for all occupations. Demand for information security analysts is expected to be very high, and that's encouraging, isn't it? Analysts will be needed to create innovative solutions to prevent hackers from stealing critical information or causing problems with computer networks. So there are 2 broad categories of information security personnel: managerial and technical. And within those two main categories, there are 4 generally recognized positions. Chief Information Security Officer, that's the man at the top. The Security Manager, Security Administrator, and Security Technician. Now the Chief Information Security Officer is responsible for assessing, managing, and implementing security. That's the guy that's going to be at the top level. And the Security Manager reports to the Chief Information Officer, supervises the technicians, administrators, and security staff. This position requires an understanding of configuration and operation, but not necessarily technical mastery. As in most corporations, the people that do the work are on that line. But the managers, they usually work their way to the top. And security administrator, he may have both technical knowledge and managerial skill, and he manages the daily operations of security technology. And if you're a security technician, that's probably who you're going to be accountable to at the first level. He may analyze, and he or she may analyze and design security solutions within a specific entity, as well as identifying user needs. And at the entry level, we have the security technician. That's where that. When you leave here, hopefully that's, if you go into the security, that's where you'll land. And you'll provide technical support to configure security hardware, implement security software, diagnose and troubleshoot problems. Anybody got a comment or a question about that? Anybody looking forward to that? Anybody planning on going, leaning towards the security, network security? Well, good, maybe you'll be thinking about that. Once you get to that in your curriculum, you'll find that it is very, very interesting. The state of being free from danger, that's the goal of security. You want your network to be like anything else, your home, your community, your country. You want things to be secure where the bad guys can't do damage, the kind of damage that they would like to. And the measures taken to ensure that safety is the process of security. So we all are on what the goal is, but if you go to security, you'll be involved in the process of securing the networks. And I'll just read this directly. Since complete security can never be fully achieved, the focus of security is more often on the process instead of the goal. In this light, security can be defined as the necessary steps to protect from harm. Why can security never be fully achieved? Anybody?
Because hackers are always progressing.
Exactly. The technology, it's rolling. That's the way I look at it. It's always rolling. And I don't know, I've been in here for a while now, and I've seen when you go in your lab book and they give you instructions on how to do one of the programs, you find that the technology has already moved past that, and then you have to do a workaround to figure out how to even make that. Have anybody experienced that? Yeah, a few. Ken, you had a comment about the slide?
Yeah, I was going to say, if someone really wants to, they can just throw as much money as they want, so no one's really safe.
Yeah, nothing is ever really secure, but you can do all that you can do to try to make things safe. Moving right on. Now, defining information security, we have 3 categories there: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Anybody want to take a stab at defining confidentiality? Why it's important? So that only the individuals can have access that need to have access. Could you think of an example of that? The credit card information. Why is integrity important? Go ahead, Marcia.
You don't want to be a scumbag and steal information yourself.
You want to make sure that communication hasn't been tampered with by a hacker, and later on when you get into security law, you'll learn about hash algorithms and digital signatures. It was escaping my mind. Availability. What about availability? Try that one.
It kind of speaks for itself how available the security is for others.
Right, you have to make it available to the user, to the people that need the information. And so sometimes there's a balance there. You make it so secure, you can make it so secure that nobody can get to it. So it's a lot of configuration. It's a lot of knowledge to have and to learn about. It's really interesting. You wouldn't, I had an example here I missed back on the integrity, and I thought this was interesting. An attacker changing the amount of an online purchase from $10,000 to $1 would violate the integrity of that information, and that has been done before. You'll learn about, trying to think of the name of that, race. Maybe look into it. Trying to find the mouse. And there are 3 layers of information security: products, people, policies, and procedures. Products. What are some of the products involved in security?
Antivirus?
I didn't hear that.
Antivirus?
Antivirus. What's some, maybe some hardware products too, so either software, but what are some hardware products? Anybody?
Firewall.
Hardware firewalls?
Firewalls. Somebody else said firewalls. Anybody else? IPS. Door locks. Anything else? Orchestrators, network mapping devices, network traps, InMap, things of that nature that you'll be learning more about. Anybody else?
Fingerprint reader.
Fingerprint reader. A lot of products to help you get network secure. People, those who implement and properly use security products to protect data. Who's that? It's you as a technician. And users, people you work for. Policies and procedures. Plans and policies established by an enterprise to ensure that people correctly use the products. You'll be involved in that. There are actually procedures for companies' written plans. You'll learn about that. And that's what you'll go by when you go to configure your servers and routers, accounts, things like that. Comments? There's an example in the Security Plus Guide to Network Security Fundamentals, 6th edition, of a character named Ellie, and she wants to buy a scooter to get to school and back to her apartment and get to her job, back to her apartment, back to the school. And she is a little bit of a concern because she could park it in a gated parking lot, but there's a hole in the fence, so it could get stolen. By someone who shouldn't be there, shouldn't have access to that parking lot. And so here are some terms that you'll learn about. We're going to learn about threat actor threat, attack vector, vulnerability, risk, and access. Of course, the thief is the threat actor, like the hacker or the cyber criminal. And the threat is, well, he might steal the scooter. The fence hole is the vulnerability. What would be a vulnerability in a network?
Open port.
An open port, where it shouldn't be open. That's a great example. Great example. And that open port would be the attack vector. That would be the hole in the fence, wouldn't it? And of course, the scooter is the access, and the scooter is the asset, and the stolen scooter is the risk. If you'll look at your other handout, have some examples of assets. On the left, you have the element name, information, customized business software, system software, physical items, and services. And you have a description down the middle there if you look at that really quick. And I hope everybody has a pencil. And then the example. Let's look at information, data that has been completed, classified, organized, and stored in various forms. An example would be customer, personnel, production, sales, marketing, and finance databases. In the right-hand column, it says critical asset with a question mark. So do you think that that is a critical asset? And put your Y for yes or in for no, if you want to. And then we'll go on to the next one, customized business software. Software that supports the business process of the enterprise. An example is customized order, transaction, application. And what do you think that that is an important asset? Yes or no? And what we're looking for is not only is it important, but is it critical? Then we have system software, like an operating system. You can put a yes or no there. Physical items, servers, routers, DVDs, power supplies. Yes or no? Is it a critical asset? And last, services. Voice and data communications. And the description is outsourcing computing services. Put your answer on that one, and we'll look at it. Okay, how many believe that the information category is a serious critical access? I hope everybody. But of course, that would be very difficult. If you lost that, you'd be in big trouble, wouldn't you? And if you, as a security personnel, you were a part of that, it wouldn't be good, would it? Customized business software. How many believe that that is a critical asset? No? Some of you not raising your hand. Customized software would be a lot of work involved in that, and if you lost it, that would be downtime to replace that. Maybe that work would have to be all done all over again. So that wouldn't be good. System software, would you consider that? Well, according to the Security Plus Guide to Network Security Fundamentals, 6th edition, that would be a no. That could be more easily replaced. The physical items, the servers, routers, DVDs, power supplies, and things like that. How many believe that's a critical asset? No, if you're broke and you have to replace that, it might be, but not really. I mean, a big corporation, it's not going to have trouble replacing those hardware components. And the services, outsourcing your computing services, how many believe that's going to really fall into that critical asset category. A couple do, but not really. That's really the computing service that the contractor's responsibility in my years. All of these could be, but according to the guide, the top two, the information and the customized business software are really the critical elements. That'd be really dangerous and expensive, and somebody could lose their job and things like that if some of those were compromised. Let's see. I'm losing my place here. So Ellie must decide how is it likely is it that that will happen, and this can be understood in terms of risks. We'll look at risk. Risk is a situation that involves some type of danger. So there are 4 risk response techniques. She can accept the risk, transfer the risk, avoid the risk, or mitigate the risk. How many have ever been maybe browsing on the internet and you would want to click on something, but you didn't think it might be a little bit risky, and then you go ahead and do it anyway? You think about it at first, and then you say, well, I need this information, or I need to check on this. Has anybody ever done that? Have you ever took a risk, maybe in your browser or something, or you're about to download something, and you think it might be a little risky? Lots of times just, oh, here we go. Hope for the best here. Maybe not a good idea, but in security, learn how to reduce that risk. Learn ways of checking on that website, that URL address, making sure it's secure, etc. You can transfer the risk. How would you transfer a risk? How would Ellie transfer the risk of her scooter? I know you know because you already been there, but I'm going to let you have it anyway.
I'll let Love take it.
No.
Third party insurance.
Insurance, she could insure it, and then you wouldn't have to worry about too much. She could avoid the risk. I guess you can just avoid things. Maybe it'll go away. That wouldn't work. And she could mitigate the risk. I may have to come back to that. I tried to keep that out. So I think the Coca-Cola people sit that in and make it thirsty. So if anybody needs to run out of Coca. Let's talk about threat actors. I'm straying away from the Security Plus guide to Network Security Fundamentals, 6th edition, and a little bit, but it's close to the same thing. They have a little bit different way of categorize them, but I'm using this one because I got started on it, and before I realized that I could have used the one in the network guide, the security guide. I'd already done so much work, and I didn't want to do more. Cyber criminals, hackers, non-malicious insiders, nation states, and hacktivists. What's a hacker?
Somebody who tries to use malicious ways to gain access to unauthorized data.
So how do you maybe have the skills to do that? Someone who's able to subvert the computer's security, and I didn't put the term script kiddies on there. Anybody know what a script kiddie is?
Someone who steals somebody else's code and claims it as their own for nefarious use. Yeah,
it could be that. A script kiddie is just somebody, a hacker, who's not really all that skilled, but is playing around and learning how to get skilled and causing problems. There are 3 types of hackers. I'm sure some of you have already got that far in your curriculum. The white hat, the gray hat, and black hat hackers. Anybody want to comment on what the differences are? The white hat.
Well, gray is usually the combination of black and white. Black is usually associated with negative, and white is usually associated with positive. So the white hat would be your insider hacker, and the black would be the purple hacker.
Perfect. That's it. What about a cyber criminal? That's very good. Cyber criminals are individuals or teams of people who use technology to commit malicious activities on digital systems or networks with the intention of stealing sensitive information and company information and personal data and generating profit. Well, we pretty much know what a cyber criminal is. Non-malicious insiders. We want to take that shot at that.
So the security analysts hack the car.
True. And it could be somebody.
People who collect data on users, normally in mass.
Right. And it could be somebody who's a former employee or contractor, business partner that's had access to the organization's network system and their data, and with or without malicious intent, they get in there and cause some damage. And a malicious insider would be somebody who did it on purpose. I need to hurry up. Probably run over the time. Nation-state actors really interested me when I was researching for this presentation. I was in the Electronic Security Command in the Air Force. This was a long time ago, back in the 70s and 80s. And with the evolution of the internet and the technology that we have today, I knew how it was then. I can imagine what they're going through now. And that's a pretty impressive insignia for a non-combat organization. I really like it. And I did Morse code in the Air Force. That was my specialty. I did other things, and so did this airman right here. I'm trying to finish up. He was a very competent Morse code operator in the 50s. Does anybody recognize that fellow?
That would be you.
No, that's not me. I'm not that. This guy's a little bit older than me. We have some things in common. We both did Morse code in the Air Force. We both had the same initials. And we're both great baritone singers. Well, maybe not the last one, but that was Johnny Cash. And the last one in that category was the hacktivist. Anybody want to define hacktivist? What a hacktivist is? Kevin?
They do it just for fun.
Well, yeah, they can. Marshall?
Hacking for a cause.
For a cause.
Political or otherwise.
Yeah, maybe they have a political agenda, something like that. Okay. Here are, according to Stride IT Consultant, the percentages. 30% cyber criminals, 25% hackers, 21 non-malicious insiders, 13% nation states. And like I said, nation states, that was the one that really interested me the most. I need to hurry on. And if anybody would like to talk to me about lunchtime or something, that's going to be a really exciting field if you want to go to work for the government or even in the enterprise. It's very important. It's very important. It's a field that really interests me. It's very exciting. The NSA, CIA, they're going to use a lot of security people in that, and you guys would consider that kind of opportunity. 11% hacktivists. Clicking on the tab. And And the next categories that you'll study after what we discussed here are reasons for successful attacks and the difficulties defending against attacks. So, do we have any questions? If there are simple questions like, when was the Battle of Waterloo fought, or when was the War of 1812, I could probably handle.
What's the difference between a hacker and a cyber criminal?
Well, a hacker may not necessarily
Commit a crime.
commit a crime, exactly. A cyber criminal, that is their motivation, is to profit from it, like ransomware, stealing a company's data and holding it for ransom. And cyber criminals are usually well organized. And we talked about the nation states. They are sometimes supported by nations, and they have a lot of resources, a lot of money. That's why it's important to defend against them. There could be national security concerns. Any other questions? Any more questions, comments? Okay, then I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your participation. That concludes Introduction to Security.